Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in the Alabama. Now, we're going to do something a little different this time, and we're going to showcase the video that you're going to see, and we're also going to break down a little bit of the failure at the end of the game. So I know that kind of spoils the video a little bit probably, but I think there's some teaching moments here that everybody can kind of learn from. And there's some other moments that I'm gonna showcase that I think you guys can all learn from also. So everybody knows I'm one of the most aggressive players in the game when it comes to how I like to push the game, how I like to force my side, how I like to, put myself in position to do a lot of damage or get annihilated, depending on how the game goes. Now, that doesn't always work out, and I mean, you can pretty much tell because I have over 5,000, I think it's like 5,600 games, something like that, played, which isn't a lot compared to some of the folks out there. But I don't have 5,000 videos of World of Warships Legends, so you can clearly see that I don't post every video or every game that I play. Now, that being said, we do get a lot of good games, and we do get to showcase some of these games. But early on, you can tell that I look away, and there's a few things that I notice every time I get into a match, right? So first thing I do, you guys see it every video, I check out the team composition. Why? Because I need to know who's on my team, not necessarily who, but what's on my team, and what's on the enemy team, and I can kind of decide what I'm going to do based on those two things, right? And that gives me a good start. And then what you'll see after that is, as people get lit up, especially early on, I'll check and see who gets spotted, where they're at, what it is, and that allows me to know what I can and cannot do on my side of the map. Now, these are all things that most players learn pretty early on in a game, but some people never do. So maybe putting this video out there is, going to show first shot out, look at that dispersion. Like, come on. That is what we love in a battleship. Pow! Double Citadel on that Siegfried right off the bat. 30,000 damage near enough. 27,668 for the first shot. Now, we also notice there's a Siegfried to our right. And the Yami is coming our direction. That's not preferable, but we cannot be broadside to a Yami at all. We don't want to bow tank the Yami either, but we definitely don't want to sit broadside to the guy. So we turn in to take a shot at the Siegfried. We waited for him after he beats. You can see we get a very good first result, 14,000 damage, and just like that, we're up over 41,000 damage done. And that's when we get into the stalemate mode of the game. Now, this is where you recognize that you have crossfires on people, they recognize they are in a crossfire, and you recognize that you are in a crossfire from different positions on the map. And this is where both teams get into a stalemate. No one wants to give up any sort of advantage to the enemy, and neither side can improve their position without giving up some sort of position to the enemy. Okay? It is a stalemate. It happens in almost every single game on one side or the other, depending on who's in where. And recognizing when you have an advantage is key in these sorts of situations. If you do not have an advantage, you cannot continue to be the aggressive person you've been, because you will end up dead and then your team will get steamrolled. That's just how it goes. You have to recognize when you're in these sorts of positions to do the best you can to position yourself to take the least amount of damage in these situations and live for the long term, okay? Now, you got to continue to be able to put out damage or try to affect the match. You can't just sit there and tank and not return anything. You have to continue to try to work for positioning, which is why you see me, I initially pulled up, I'm bow tanking the bigger threat, and then I am giving my broadside to a Siegfried who cannot shoot me back currently. Now I am spotted, so I've got to consider that. He's got 15-inch guns, we know this. The Siegfried technically is better than the Bismarck and the Gneisenau with their 15-inch guns, solely due to the fact that it's more accurate. So I respect the crap out of a Siegfried, trust me. I've been caught way too many times broadside to a Siegfried and paid the price because of those 15-inch guns actually hitting their targets. So I have come to the point where I actually respect a Siegfried when I know they're on my broadside, for sure. Now here, the Kogoro gets spotted. We got a Friesland push it up into the sea cap, and and the Friesland immediately opens fire on the guy, but that's leaving him wide open to getting absolutely punished by the Siegfried and potentially an Ochakov that's somewhere else behind him. I don't know exactly, but the Siegfried that we were shooting at, you could see was shooting HE. That's 15-inch HE going at a Friesland. So I can only assume that he got a very accurate salvo out of that HE, because a Kagero is not outgunning a Friesland. It's just not happening. It doesn't have the DPM for it. So he got help from his team to take that Friesland down, and that is a huge turn of events, and that is something that is unacceptable in a Friesland. Trust me, I love the Friesland, but you know you don't have any torpedoes. You've got to do a really good job of managing situations like that so that you're not dying early. And then we immediately lose the Jervis, which shouldn't have been in the match to begin with. I can't stand failed divisions. I don't think they should allow failed divisions in the game, but I understand the reason that they allow it, and so I can't control that. He was in the game. I was hoping he was really good. Unfortunately, he gets killed early, right after we lose a Friesland, and that puts us in a bind. Because now we've lost 2 destroyers, they've only lost a single cruiser, and we've lost 2 cruisers as well. So our team is behind the 8 ball, but this game is far from over. We're going to showcase just how much we can turn this game around by good positioning and just not allowing the enemy to capitalize on our inability to advance our position. Now the enemy's doing everything right here. They've captured 2 bases. Well, they've captured 1 base. They're working on capturing a second. We're trying to put ourselves in a position where we can stop the enemy from doing that, but there is a destroyer here, and at the end of the day, I'm a battleship, and I have no way to see him. Now, the Siegfried gets very fortunate here not to be removed from the match. A Siegfried bow into a battleship is no bueno. Siegfried does not have the bow armor. Siegfried's strength lies in its belt armor. In order to tank a 16-inch battleship, or any battleship for that matter, you have to have that belt exposed. If you go bow in, you're gonna pay for it, and he's lucky he didn't get citadel, because the Siegfried is notorious for being citadel through the bow as well. And then we've got another Siegfried. So I don't know if this was 2 different Siegfrieds or if this was 3 Siegfrieds in the match. We'll have to look after the fact. But you can see when I recognized that I had my broadside to an Odin and a Siegfried, I immediately turned away to allow myself to tank those rounds with that belt armor. He fired armor piercing, and we were able to shrug it off of the belt. Now, the guy that's on my left, back at the Charlie cap, is firing HE at me, so I don't really care if I'm broadside to him, because at the end of the day, as long as he continues to fire HE, we're okay. But look at my positioning against the Yamato. That Yamato cannot touch me. No matter how much he wants to, he cannot. Now, look at this Siegfried. This shot here, I'm not gonna lie, we thought we had him dead. Like, I thought for sure, we knew he was in reverse, we had a good shot, we lined it up, didn't get the RNG we were looking for, and we actually end up bouncing 2 rounds off of his belt. But we get very fortunate as this man switched over to AP and caught us broadside. I was not expecting that, I'm not gonna lie. This man shot HE for the entire time that he's been shooting at me. And look at that dispersion out of that rear gun. Good God. That looks like death. But of course, we leave him with just enough to get away. And then we fire the front guns at him. We're like, alright, this guy's definitely dead, but he actually has propulsion mod on, and he gets going forward and avoids those shells, so good on him. Alaska comes out, so we have to bow tank that threat. And then, of course, the Kagero shows his hands by firing his guns at me and getting himself detected right on the edge of his detection range, and that allows me to dodge his torpedoes. Had he not fired his guns, I probably would have sailed right into those torpedoes, and this would have been a wrap, okay? But because of that, we dodge his torpedoes, we're able to take him down, and we go ahead and we damage con. Now, we're going to use the island in front of us to protect us from the destroyer, or from the cruisers that are trying to burn us down at a distance, and we're hoping that we can get loaded in time to finish off this freaking Siegfried. And because of this, he gets away with it. He gets away with it just long enough to get behind the island, and we're not able to shoot him. Now, we're going to spend the next, like, 5 minutes radared, I swear to God. We got an Ochi out in front of us. He's got a short duration, but long-range radar. We've got the Alaska to my left, who's doing the same thing. Now, here's the funny thing. Nobody can take advantage of their radar. And the Siegfried showed his hand on his torpedoes. I knew these were coming, which is why I'm stopping and reversing, and we're able to dodge those torpedoes. And you're going to see that because I'm in this crossfire potential, like we've got an Ochakov in front of me with torpedoes and a radar. We've got Alaska with a radar and no torpedoes, but very good guns out in front of me on my left. And we also have the Siegfried out on my left. Now, I know that the Siegfried is there and waiting for an opportunity to come out and potentially get rid of me. So I'm bow tanking the Alaska. Thank God the Alaska came back across my bow, because if he come across the left side, he would actually have been able to annihilate me, and there's nothing I can do. I trigger my final heal, and I am waiting for that Siegfried to make a mistake here. And I think he knows it. I think because I keep looking over, the Siegfried knows that I'm waiting for him to come out. I know he's a one-shot kill. I know just the rear turret will be enough to kill him. And I get robbed on these shots. That should have been a dev strike. And the game is just like, nope, sorry, you only get 3 hits, and 2 of them are going to be full penetrations, but for not a whole lot of damage. And you can see I keep checking my left because I'm expecting those that Siegfried to pop out at any moment. And I think he waits a little too long to do so. But to his credit, he does manage to wait just long enough for me to once again stay involved with this Alaska. He is going to pop out. You can see he gets detected here for a short amount of time, and we get another decent chunk off of this Alaska. You can see I'm getting the upper hand on the Alaska. 16-inch guns versus 305mm guns. We're going to win that fight more often than not, as long as we're both, armored. We're both slugging it out at a decent angle. As long as we're not giving them easy shots, we're going to win that fight. Okay? We're starting to reverse at an angle because I'm expecting at any moment this freaking Siegfried's going to pop out. And you can see every time I fire the front, I'm using the rear guns, and I'm ready for this guy to pop out. I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so we keep checking, but we keep going back and using the front guns to hold the Alaska back. And the Ochakov, for whatever reason, decides he doesn't want to come out, which actually ends up working in his favor, because if he had, there's a good chance he would have become the target of opportunity, and an Ochakov versus a 45 caliber American battleship, not going to go in his favor. And finally, the one time I don't check is when he actually pops around the corner, and we're able to get the rear guns on him very quickly. We get the kill. We know that he may or may not have gotten torpedoes off, but he did get a big enough hit into us that we're not able... he knocks out one of our guns permanently, and then not only that, but he also gets a really good chunk in us. So, well done on him, biding his time until the one time that I wasn't ready for him. But look at who we have left on our team. We have a half-health Yamato, and we have a half-health Worcester. The Worcester. And, well, I guess he's not half-health, he's quarter-health. But we have 2 guys that are both legendaries, that are both on the mech, and they were watching as all of this was unfolding. Okay? Now, I wasn't paying attention to what they were doing at the time. I was just asking for help. I need support. And I can't, for the life of me, figure out why that Yami does what he does at the end of this match. The Worcester, I've got no complaints about what he does. He does everything in his power to try to win this match, and almost pulls it off. He's got the Akazuki. This Akazuki makes an absolutely mind-boggling decision to put himself in danger versus a Worcester, and the Worcester immediately makes him pay for it. And that keeps the hopes alive. And then the Ochakov comes out and does the exact same thing. And you cannot make these sorts of decisions. This is coming down to the win harder. You can't do this as an enemy or a friendly. You just can't make these decisions. Now, luckily for the Ochakov, he does get angled just in time to not get dev struck by that Worcester, as the Worcester had AP loaded. This Worcester knows what he's doing, and he's doing everything he can. He actually fires at the Alaska, knowing that he can't really do anything to the Ochi. Ochi then re-angles himself. I think the Worcester rushed that shot a little bit. I think he could have held that shot just a little longer while the Ochi was, committing to the turn. And I think he'd have got better luck. But look at the Yami over here. This Yami's not in a position where he can do anything to help the team. Now, he is, to his credit, looking for a crossfire, but I think he could have just sailed right into this gap and gone straight in. There was no reason for him to be so passive at the end of this game. He's got 40,000 hit points. That's more than any of these cruisers have, right? Or pretty close to more than most of these cruisers have to begin with. And you have better armor than all of them. So Again, I'm not trying to point it out as a you know, a detriment to the person. I'm literally just trying to point it out as you got to recognize when you have advantages and when you can push those advantages. And these guys did have the advantage while I was holding all of these guys at bay for as long as I could. They had the advantage. They could have had crossfires going, and who knows? Maybe they were. Maybe there was crossfires that these guys were taking advantage of. But I'm just saying that in these sorts of situations, you've got to, every little bit counts. And if you're super passive in a Yami, then you're not gonna get those results, especially after the nerf. You're not gonna get those results that you're looking for. In the end, the Worcester goes down. Like I said, I have no fault against the Worcester. He did everything he could at the end of the match to try to pull that match back, and the enemy almost gave it away. But we did pretty solid. We got second on the team. Worcester again, 2,000 base XP and 4 kills and a loss. Between the two of us, we got almost all the kills on the team. So there was a lot of players that could have done a little better on our team, but I thought this was a good game to showcase some teaching points that people could learn from. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.